Hello and welcome everyone to Women's Speakers Association WSATV. It is Laura Rubenstein. I'm your host and producer and digital media and marketing strategist. I'm the author of Social Media Myths Busted, the Small Business Guide to Online Revenue. We have a fantastic show for you today. We have influencers who are passionate about changing the world, and one of the most important things that we could do for ourselves is cope with suffering because life brings us difficult times and there is no reason we need to suffer, right? So I'd like to welcome our guest experts today. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you all can meet them, and let's say hello to our guests. Hello, Miss Stephanie. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. I'm so grateful to be here today. Thank you so much for this invitation.
So tell us your name, where you're tuning in from, your website.
I'm Stephanie Dalfonzo. I'm a spiritual healer and coach, and I'm in Danbury, Connecticut, with an awful lot of snow outside right now. And I'm really happy to be here. If you want to find more info about things that I talk about today, you can find me at stephaniedelfonzo.com.
Great. Thanks for being here, Stephanie. And let's go over and say hello to Jaisa. Hey, Jaisa.
Hi, Laura. Hi, Stephanie and Susan.
Tell us about you.
So my name is Jaisa Sulit. I'm from Toronto, but currently living in Vancouver. And I'm an occupational therapist. And you can learn more about me at jaisasulit.com.
Awesome. Great to have you here, Jaisa. And Susan, how about you?
Hi, I'm Susan Marquez, and I'm from Madison, Mississippi. We're on our third day of winter here in the last day, so it'll be 76 degrees here tomorrow. Don't hate. And I am a motivational speaker, inspirational speaker, I guess you'd say too. Um, just kind of starting out in this field, and you'll learn more about that soon.
Yeah, so we have a power team here, and I'm so excited to jump right in because this topic of suffering and dealing with it, I think sometimes we don't always have the right tools. So I'd like to start out with Stephanie, our topic of how to cope with life suffering and your advice that could help the users deal with difficult times. What would you say?
You have the power to change your life. It doesn't have to take a long time. It doesn't have to hurt. You just have to have the courage to take that first step. And that really can be a very big, hard step for some people. When you're suffering with stress and anxiety and fear, and you just feel like you can't reach out, that's when you can tap into the courage that you have and you might not even know inside and reach out, even if it's reaching out to a friend or to a professional to start getting some guidance on how you can move away from those sufferings of stress, anxiety, fear, etc.
I love that advice because when we acknowledge our power, that kind of gives us that courage you're talking about. So let's go over to Jason and maybe you can give us our advice. And maybe, Susan, if you could remember to mute. Okay, Jason.
Thank you, Stephanie, for starting us off with a reminder that it is our power because we also have the power to create more of our own suffering. And one of my favorite stories on suffering is from the Buddha, and it's called The Two Arrows. And basically, the first arrow is the arrow that comes with living life, right? So let's just say I have a headache. That's the first arrow. But the second arrow comes when I then start judging that headache. So, what my advice is, or how I help others to cope with suffering, is to cultivate mindful awareness, compassion awareness, so that we can be aware when we are shooting that second arrow to ourselves.
Wow. It's really interesting because I cut myself this past weekend and the strangest thing happened. I didn't look at it. I was holding it, holding it, holding it. And I had a friend who was there and got a Band-Aid and he's like, let me see that. And the minute I looked at it, I mean, it must have been 5, 10 minutes before I got the Band-Aid. The minute I looked at it, I went into shock. So my second arrow, that's really wild. Anyway, and it was totally instant. So Susan, I know you're someone who's dealt with a lot of suffering, not only your own, but in your family, and we'll talk about your story. But what advice do you have once they get that second arrow?
Oh, I love the analogy of the second arrow. that nailed it. Both of these ladies have certainly hit on what I've experienced in true life, and it's a lot of time. I mean, we can't avoid the sufferings of life. They're there no matter what, but it's how we're going to approach it. How are we going to handle it? How are we going to make up our minds that we're going to get through this? Or are we?
Yeah, are we? Is a great question. So between acknowledging the power, having the courage, stepping into the courage, Jason, like getting, being mindful, and then Susan, it's like, we have to not only know that, but know that we can enjoy the moment regardless, right? So I want to get to know each of you a little bit and hear about your stories. So tell us who you work with, what you do, and maybe a little bit more about how you've helped someone or how you got into this role. So, Stephanie, why don't we start with you?
Okay, thank you. And I love everything that's being shared. And it really is. It's like each of us is building upon, it's like we're taking this wonderful holistic approach to suffering so that anybody watching this, it will walk away with at least a couple of good nuggets. So I love that you brought all of us together. Thank you so much. So I work mainly, I would say, with like 48 to 65-year-old women. And that's kind of an interesting number to pull out. But it's because most of the women that I work with, we've had a certain amount of life experience before we finally say, Uncle, I've suffered enough. I can't take any more. For me and many of the women that I work with, we've given away our power to a marriage, to a career, to being a mom. And then finally, when we're not really able to breathe as deeply as we used to, then we say, maybe it's my time. So I really focus mainly with, 48 to 65-year-old women. And yet I have a real sweet spot for young ones too, because when I can help someone tap into their power at a young age, it changes the whole trajectory of their life. And so, who I want to share with you about today is 19-year-old Sarah, this beautiful, beautiful young woman who, when I still had a brick and mortar office, she and her mother came to my office. And I'm a hypnotist as well. So they came to my hypnosis office because she had this absolute fear of flying. They had this wonderful family vacation scheduled, and she wasn't going. So mother said, we know exactly when it started. I said, well, maybe not. And of course, it wasn't where they thought it was, but we did the healing. This is why I call myself a spiritual healer and coach, because you do the healing, but then you do the coaching as to how to continue to sustain the changes without sliding back into it. So 5 years after I worked with Sarah, I look on Facebook and I see a picture of her jumping out of an airplane skydiving. This young woman went from, I'm not getting on a plane, to jumping out of a plane skydiving. And she now has her own business, The 5 Foot Traveler, and she has visited all 7 continents. This young woman at 19 years old broke free from the suffering of the anxiety and the fear that was keeping her world small to travel the 7 continents. I haven't done that yet.
That's brilliant. And that's the impact of a spiritual healing, work, that your work goes on for years and years and lifetimes. So it's precious, it's powerful. Thank you for the work you're doing, especially in helping people cope with, the things they're suffering with that they not necessarily have to suffer with. So
Right.
let's take it from there and go over to Jaisa, who also uses some tools. Tell us about the tools you use and the work you do, the people you work with, and what you're passionate about and how you help people.
Okay, thank you. So, as an occupational therapist, the main modality that I use to help people is mindfulness. So, that's a broad umbrella to describe a type of awareness that we bring to the moment. It's a compassionate awareness, it's curious, it's non judgmental, it's an awareness that allows what is here to be here, whether it's the way my body is, the way my soul feels, the way my heart feels. And so, I teach an 8-week program called Mindfulness Based Stress Reduction. It was created by John Kabat-Zinn, and it's probably the most evidence-based program in the world that's been around since 1979, and it's internationally known. And I teach this program to patients with chronic pain, as well as those with anxiety and depression, and just to the general public who are interested in wellness and how to cope with stress. So that's one of my populations that I work with, patients and clients. But I also teach mindfulness workshops to my fellow healthcare professionals, because a lot of people in the healthcare industry really put a lot of time into caring for their patients. And it's great to be able to have these staff education days or workshops where professionals can stop and learn how to take care of themselves and bring this mindful, compassionate awareness to themselves. And then the third population I work with are students, so future therapists, so working at University of Toronto or here in BC at UBC, and bringing forth this new modality of mindfulness. It's an old modality, but new here in the Western world. And overall, with this mindful awareness, we are able to then meet suffering without judgment, because this is a world of, oh, I've got pain, let's get a painkiller. We resist pain. We don't want to hold it and look at it, but with non-judgmental, curious, compassionate awareness, we can then feel the suffering. We can hold it. And it's in that meeting, holding compassion to our hearts, it can then be transformed. Oh, unmute. We can't hear you. There we go.
Now you can hear me.
Thank
you. You didn't want to. No, anyway. So your personal experience with suffering is really powerful. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you healed yourself?
Yes. So after working for 5 years as a OT, occupational therapist, I was taking motorcycle lessons. And on the first day, I lost control of the motorcycle and ended up getting thrown into a fence. And when I landed, hit my head and broke my back and sustained a spinal cord injury and was paralyzed from the waist down. So that was in 2010. So over the last 6.5 years, I have really struggled to cope with the anxiety and depression and chronic pain that comes with living with a spinal cord injury. And that's exactly how I fell into mindfulness. I signed up for that mindfulness-based stress reduction course a year after my accident to cope with my own challenges. And not only did it help with the mental and physical challenges, it actually helped with my recovery. But most importantly, it woke me up to the chronic self-loathing, self-judgment that I didn't even know I had. So with mindfulness, I was able to see that I wasn't loving myself, and from there able to cultivate compassion. And that compassion was the foundational soil of what self-care was able to grow out of. And so that soil of compassion and that growth of self-care is how I've been able to cope with chronic pain, anxiety, and depression since having the disability.
Amazing and wonderful story. And I know it's inspiring a lot of people and you're helping a lot of people. So thank you, as well as the wonderful work we're going to hear also from Susan. So Susan, tell us about who you're working with now and what you do with them and how you got there.
Well, I work primarily with women and mothers. And I just kind of think it's no accident that I happen to be on the panel with these two women because they are truly speaking to my heart and my story as well. Steph, I was 52 years old and it was my time. It was my time. My kids were grown, they were on their own, and something caught me really off guard when I got a phone call from the New York City Police Department telling me my daughter had been found in the air shaft of her building that morning and that she had fallen 6 stories. And I had to ask, is she dead or alive? And yes, she was alive. And at that moment, my life turned upside down. I learned in the hospital in New York that all my life, as a mother, we kind of feel we're in control. We always feel like we're the ones in control. If we don't handle it, nobody else will. Nobody can do it like we can. Well, I was helpless in that hospital. I was not in control. There was nothing I could do or say that was going to change anything that was happening right then, right there. And so that's when I started kind of learning the concept of mindfulness. So, wow, I wish I'd had that little 8-week course before this happened. Um, and I became very mindful of what was happening right now. I learned that I should not project into the future because my mind would take me to some pretty dark places. And instead, if I did try to think about anything, I would think about my daughter was a dancer. Think about her dancing. Think about her moving, walking. She is a quadriplegic, but she is an ambulatory incomplete quadriplegic, which is rare. She walks without assistance. It's not pretty, but she gets from point A to point B. Um, and she has taught me an awful lot about myself and about just being in the here and now. And one of the things we did is we laughed every day. She was in critical condition, but something happened every day in that hospital room that would make us laugh. And in any tiny little victory we had in the hospital, we would celebrate it in a major way. And I think the hospital staff picked up on that. And so everybody kind of got behind that. And when everybody's behind you and cheering, it just gets stronger and stronger.
Wow. We've had three amazing and compelling stories here today. And Susan, yours is as amazing. And you work with the hospitals now and people who come into hospitals with similar, so people don't have to
Yeah,
experience what you did as alone as you did in the beginning.
yes, I do. A lot of times the hospitals will call me in to talk with parents, and not always parents, but just family members. And um, I've been there. I know
Yeah.
their fear.
Yeah. So you've been speaking, and so each of these women, I just want to put my screen share up here. Susan and Jaisa and Stephanie, you bring your heart and soul to your work and have given so much to people. And I'm so glad you're here giving to our audience. And hi, everybody out there who's watching. Please, if you're inspired like this, tell us you're inspired in the comments. We want to hear if you have any questions. That's fine. We'll come back and answer them in the comments as well. But if you want to get in touch with these women, here are their websites as well. I have one last question for each of you because, this is what Women Speakers Association is all about. It's about women supporting women in being that most powerful version of themselves and inspiring that global transformation, bringing out their message. And we're bringing out your message today. So we have a free level of membership waiting for those of you who would like to, if you've been inspired, if you also want to passionately share your message, join us at joinwsa.com. And also, just to give you a little flavor, I'd like to hear from each of the members who are here, our panelists here today, our interviewees. What do you love about Women Speakers Association, or why did you join? Let's go over to Stephanie.
First of all, can I just say to Susan and Jaisa, oh my gosh, I'm so inspired by you. Both of you are just so inspiring. And it's the core of why I joined WSA, because there are a lot of us who have been called. I have been called to share my story and my gifts. And Susan and Jaisa, you are so called to share your stories, your gifts, and your inspiration. So this is why I joined WSA, because I am inspired beyond belief now. And I know that with the support of each other, it's that feminine energy, the support of each other, that we can get our messages out there, not just for our own edification, but because when we inspire others, I think of the Marianne Williamson quote, as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. And I think that that's what we do with WSA.
Well said. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And I'm just like, yeah, I'm in the right place. How about you, Jason? Why did you join?
Well, I initially joined because I knew it would help me with my goals of doing international work as a public speaker. And since joining, though, what I have found has been so great is being able to collaborate with other amazing women like Stephanie, you, and Susan. And it really does make the future seem brighter when we can connect with other women who are just shining their light for the world. And I can't help but feel brighter by the end of these collaborations. So that is the best part, is the community of passionate women changing the world.
One message at a time. Yes. We're having a great time. Okay. And Susan, I want to hear why you joined and what you love about Women Speakers Association.
I joined because I needed some support. I didn't really know what I was doing. I know I kind of got thrust into this almost by accident, but I saw the impact it has on other people. And I thought, if I'm going to do this, I need to do it right. And oh my goodness, I've learned to do it right through the Women Speakers Association. From the first welcome phone call that kind of took me by surprise because I didn't know I was going to be on camera, to the second call that I did where I learned about all the benefits and everything. I've met women from all over the world, and I'm surprised, I guess I was surprised at what a large, far reaching organization this is, and that through this organization, I'll be able to network with all of those amazing women, especially the two that are on the call today. I would love to continue the conversation. This is amazing. Thank you.
You're so welcome, and thank you so much for being back with us and with us in Women Speakers Association. We welcome more of you wonderful women to join us. Just go to joinwsa.com. You'll learn everything you need to know about join. We have a free level of membership waiting for you. You can join us at the premier level as well and get the added visibility and messaging out to the world if you would like. So we will be back with another episode of WSA TV next week or the week after. Just look for us. We can always go to the video section of our Facebook page and watch other inspiring premier members as well. So take care, everyone, and just live your best life. And if we can help you, we're here for you. Join WSA.com, WSA TV. Bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.